Whew! First week of Inktober over. Well, I know most people don't think of it that way, but the first 4 days were the first week of Inktober in a classroom. So today we're doing freeze, and I did a little brainstorming as I've done every day. You can see the words for bait up there. I don't know how to spell icicle, but that was the first thing that came to my mind when I thought of freeze. Followed by a few other words, like a pile of snow on top of something. The first freeze of winter. Refrigerator freezer, which led me to thinking of ice cubes, which I looked up on Google, and I got a bunch of ice cubes, but not the kind you think, more of the wrapper sort. Thought of it being solid, stop, some other words, and then I decided, all right, let's go with the ice cube. I like the idea of a skull inside of an ice cube. So I printed out a picture, you can see it over on the left, of an ice cube, which I'm going to use a little bit later. So the first thing I did was I drew the skull. I drew the skull first because I wanted to be able to fit the ice cube around it on the paper. My compositions, I think, for Inktober have not been all of that fantastic. Pretty much a skull in the middle of a piece of paper every time. A good rule of composition, just a good basic rule, is to try and make your drawing go off of 3 sides of the page. However, you'll notice that when I'm done, I usually do a table or something, and that helps the composition out a little bit. I slowed this video down. I didn't really slow it down. It's actually sped up 2 times its normal speed, but I usually speed it up about 8 times the normal speed. At least most of the video is that way. I didn't do it this time because I thought you might want to be able to see the pencil movement, the mistakes, the roughing out, all that. There's a couple of different ways that you can draw, and a lot of students think about drawing, you know, what they see. Well, if they even think about looking and observing, they sort of draw contour line style where, you know, they just kind of go around the outside of it. But what I did here was I kind of laid it out. Here is a big circle for the head. Here's another circle because of the back of the head. Here's the front jaw dropping off the bottom. And then I started adding details to all that once I had the proportions right. I cheated a little bit, and I used some blue Bombay, I'm sorry, not Bombay, Dr. P.H. Martin's acrylic ink. And I watered it down a little bit so it wouldn't be too thick. And then I just used a little bit of what I saw on the ice cube in the picture. I didn't make it exactly perfect. I kind of, you know, eyeballed it a little bit and made it up. It didn't have to be perfect. Nobody's gonna look at my ice cube and decide whether or not this is melted that way or the lights refracted through it the other way and so on. I just kind of tried to get the basic idea of the ice cube that was on that piece of paper that I printed out. I did look for an ice cube on the internet that was similar to the direction I wanted my skull to go. And then I just went from there. Like I said, I watered the ink down first, so it was pretty transparent, pretty translucent. I think I even watered it down some more for that part right there. And then after that was dry, I gave it some time and I let it dry. And after it dried, I came back with a actual pen and nib, and oh, I'm sorry, I was getting ahead of myself. I got the pen and nib out and did the black ink. I thought I had done all of the ice cube first, but I didn't. I did the skull like I've done every day so far, with black ink and a pen nib. I don't know if I'm going to use the same materials every day for 31 days. Last year I changed it up quite a bit. I probably used similar ink, but I did some with a pen and nib. I did some with a brush, and I did some with my paintbrush or my pen tied to the end of a 4-foot long stick. You should see some of those videos. If you haven't watched those already, I'll put a link to them somewhere here, maybe on a card or maybe in the description down below. But I changed it up quite a bit last year. So far this year, 4 days in, I'm still using black ink mostly, and a pen or nib holder. One of the reasons why I'm doing it this way is all of my drawings have been on this 5-inch by 5-inch paper, which I think is a good format if I'm going to take a picture of it and upload it to Instagram every time, which I've been doing a lot of. So anyway, this one was pretty fun. I've never drawn an ice cube that I know of before, and like I said, I used some of the colored ink. So far I haven't really been letting my students use colored ink because I have a very limited amount, but I might change that up this coming week because I don't think we want to do black ink this way, you know, black pen nib ink for 31 days. That's a lot of days to just do black. So I'll probably let them use some colored ink this coming week, maybe, if I can bring myself to share my ink. The only thing I don't like about this one is that blue oval on the top of the ice cube. I think is a little bit strong, and a few minutes when I'm going to go back over some of the blue and make some darker blues with the straight blue. It's Dr. P.H. Martin's blue without any water added to it. I'm going to do that in a few minutes after this is dried. But and then that little oval on the top becomes a little bit harsher, and that's kind of the only part of it that I really don't like. One of the things that's really inspiring me right now is Scott M. Fisher's artwork. I've been following him on Instagram for a few days now, and he has done a lot of Inktober work, and his work is amazing, and he has a YouTube channel. You should go check it out. I'm kind of afraid to tell you that because maybe once you see it, you'll never come back and see me again. I hope that's not the case. But Scott M. Fisher, that's Fischer, has got amazing artwork. And apparently he does some illustrations for books and for Magic the Gathering and for other things like that. But he's got a few Inktober videos out. Follow him on Instagram. He's got really cool stuff. And I am going to start trying to do some pieces in the process that he uses to do art, because I really like the way that process turns out. And it's not too different from the way I already work, with a lot of cross-hatching and a lot of ink and that sort of thing. And so I don't think it's too far stretch to, I don't know, to kind of follow in his footsteps as far as process goes. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not really going to copy his work because, well, he does a lot of fantasy stuff that I don't do very much of. So I don't, I don't know, maybe I will. Maybe I'll have a lot more influence there than I realize, but just the process that he uses to work is really awesome. Okay, I'm sorry. Enough about that. Anyway, look up Scott M. Fisher. And, excuse me. So I'm going to start doing the back. I don't want the back to be too dark, although being really dark like this, it made the ice cube really pop out. But I'm going to spread this out a little bit, get it running a little. Add a lot of water to it. I am really having a blast with Inktober. I hope y'all are too. If you want me to look at your Inktober work, I would love to. please leave a link or something in the comments down below, and I'll go check it out. Maybe you're posting it on Instagram or maybe Facebook or something. Send me a friend request or link it. So you know how you can see through an ice cube, right? Well, you'll be able to see the background. So I took my ink, my watered down black ink, and I kind of went over some of the places through the ice cube. It also kind of breaks, so you don't see quite the same line through the ice cube that you do on either side of the ice cube. So I kind of tried to give that effect a little bit, and I really just kind of like faked it. I didn't have a real ice cube in front of me, so I just kind of faked what I thought that would look like. Then I decided it needed to be melting a little bit, so I drew a little puddle here at the bottom. Again, I also made that up, made some adjustments. Used my Ticonderoga eraser here. I got that at the $5 store. I think it was Ollie's, the $5 store, no, or something like that. Got it at Ollie's. I know that. Anyway, and then I added some blue, and then I added a little bit more around it, but I think that my camera died, my phone died somewhere around here, so I don't know if I got all that footage. But I didn't want it to take away too much or be too harsh, so I kept it pretty light. So I got 2 days coming up this weekend that I'm not in school, which is where I've been doing all of these beautiful little works of art before school started, so the kids would have something to look at. But I'm not going to be at school Saturday and Sunday. But I'm going to still try and do Inktober. I brought some materials home with me, and I'm going to try and keep up with it and do the prompts for Saturday and Sunday. So check back tomorrow sometime, see what that turns out looking like. There it is, finished. I forgot to sign it and everything, but I'll do that later. And then here is some of my student work. A lot of ice cubes, a lot of ice cream. There's a ice skater. Here's some skull ice cream. There's a deer, frozen, a polar bear, Dr. Freeze, and a popsicle. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me see what you did on Inktober for Freeze. Go make some art.